On March 6, the Israeli military reported that around 50 Israeli Air Force jets flew in the morning, dropping approximately 100 bombs. These strikes destroyed the underground command bunker previously used by Iran's late supreme leader, Khamenei. The bunker was reportedly located beneath Tehran's leadership complex, spanning multiple streets. After Khamenei was eliminated, the bunker continued to be used by senior Iranian officials. Modern military technology has shown that underground bunkers are not a guarantee of survival. They're more like a death sentence. In addition to the underground command bunker, Iran has secretly built a vast underground military facility, known as the Missile City. This facility stores and launches missiles and drones, designed for covert deployment and sudden counterattacks during potential conflicts. These facilities are deeply hidden within mountains, relying on natural terrain and man-made tunnels, forming a seemingly impenetrable underground network. This design stems from Cold War-era concepts of underground bunkers, focusing on survivability and prolonged combat capability. However, during recent conflicts with the US and Israel, the fatal weaknesses of this strategy were quickly exposed. Within less than a week, these missile cities went from being defense assets to Iran's greatest strategic vulnerability. The reasons for this shift not only lie in technological setbacks, but also in misjudged strategic thinking and the chain reaction of intelligence leaks. According to a March 5th report by the Wall Street Journal, US and Israeli fighter jets and drones are continuously circling above dozens of massive underground bases, ready to strike immediately if any launch vehicles surface. Heavy bombers have also dropped bombs on several entrances, and some facilities have collapsed, trapping the weapons inside. Recently, the US bombed an underground missile facility in Iran. A local resident filmed the distant explosions and said it looked like something he'd only seen in the Call of Duty video game. The video closely matches reports from March 5th about the strike on the underground missile storage facility in Damavand, Iran. Another video shows US bombers attacking over 200 targets inside Iran, with B-52 bombers dropping large 2,000-pound bunker-busting bombs on deeply buried missile facilities. Researcher Sam Lair analyzed the fundamental flaw in the Missile City concept. The originally mobile launch systems are now trapped in fixed locations with known entrances, making them easier to target and destroy. Looking back at the development of Iran's underground missile facilities, the concept began during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. Facing Iraq's airstrikes and missile attacks, Iran realized the vulnerability of surface deployments and began investing heavily in underground projects. By the 21st century, as Iran's nuclear program advanced and regional tensions escalated, Iran further expanded these facilities. Iranian state media has frequently released propaganda videos showing rows of missiles in tunnels, such as the Qiyam and Fatah series ballistic missiles and Shahed series suicide drones. These videos are often accompanied by stirring background music and portraits of leaders, aiming to display military strength to the outside world. The video, released by Fars news agency, shows hundreds of drones mounted on launchers inside the underground tunnel, with Iranian flags and portraits of Khamenei hanging on the walls. This display is interpreted as Iran's deliberate attempt to showcase its military strength amid the ongoing conflict. Iranian state television also aired a propaganda video, boasting about its underground missile city deep in the mountains. The video shows rows of missiles like the Qiyam and Fatah being pushed out of tunnels, aimed at intimidating the US and Israel. However, just a few hours later, this facility was precisely destroyed by a joint airstrike. Ironically, this public display, meant as a psychological deterrence, inadvertently became a source of intelligence leaks. The mountains, terrain features, tunnel entrance angles, and internal layout shown in the video provided valuable geographic data for the US and Israel. Analysts note that by repeatedly airing these propaganda videos on the eve of the conflict, Iran effectively helped its opponents confirm their targets. US and Israeli fighter jets adopted a shoot-first, ask-questions-later strategy, managing 24/7 surveillance over known missile bases. Dozens of massive cave complexes became primary targets. Once a missile launcher attempted to leave the shelter, US and Israeli drones or manned jets would immediately launch precise strikes. Satellite images showed that at a base near Shiraz, the launcher was destroyed even before reaching the canyon, with the remnants emitting red smoke from nitric fuel, indicating a secondary explosion due to fuel leakage. Similar scenes occurred repeatedly in Isfahan and Kermanshah, where an entrance to one base was clearly visible in satellite photos from March 1st, but the following day, it had collapsed due to heavy bombing. Data from U.S. Central Command further confirmed the effectiveness of the strikes. Within 4 days of the conflict, Iranian missile launches dropped by 86%, and by the end of the week, they had declined by over 90%. This was not just a reduction in numbers, but a systematic paralysis of Iran's ability to retaliate. The core issue behind this outcome lies in the inherent flaw of the missile city concept. Initially, Iran's ballistic missile designs emphasized mobility, with launchers rapidly moving across the vast country to avoid being locked onto. However, once these weapons were fixed in underground facilities, they lost their mobility advantage and became reliant on limited entry and exit points. Most of these entry points have already been identified by U.S. and Israeli forces, accumulated over the years through satellite reconnaissance, espionage, and open-source intelligence. The fixed nature of these underground facilities made them static targets, especially after Iran's air defense systems largely failed, allowing U.S. and Israeli forces to hunt them down with ease, supported by reconnaissance planes circling at low speeds. At the beginning of the conflict, Iran's S-300 and domestically made air defense missiles were suppressed, leaving the sky completely exposed. The U.S. military's space-based infrared missile warning system further amplified this disadvantage, using heat-synchronized infrared beams to detect missile launch signatures in real time. As soon as Iran fired, satellites immediately launched onto the location, guiding MQ-9 Reaper drones to launch Hellfire missiles, or track the missile launcher's retreat paths, and used bunker buster bombs to block the tunnels. This multidimensional, networked combat system, spanning from space to the ground, turned Iran's underground network into little more than mouse holes, where any movement in or out led to certain death. Additionally, there were technical limitations in the design of Iran's underground facilities. Although some bases attempted to build underground launch silos to enable launches without exposing the surface, these silos, by U.S. standards, were extremely rudimentary, simply deep pits dug into the mountainside, pointing toward the Persian Gulf. One base near Hormuz town is believed to have 9 such silos, equipped with conveyor systems, but these faced serious technical challenges, such as heat accumulation, structural instability, and precision guidance issues. Analysts suggest that Iran has essentially abandoned the idea of launching directly from underground and instead relies on ground mobility, further exposing the vulnerability of these facilities. Becca Wasser, a defense expert at Bloomberg Economics, emphasized that while Iran has a stockpile of about 2,000 ballistic missiles and fired over 1,200 projectiles during the conflict, most of them were low-cost drones. The high-end missiles that were reserved for prolonged conflicts are now difficult to mobilize due to the blocked silo entrances. The U.S. and Israeli attack waves were also carefully planned, first destroying the auxiliary buildings and roads, and then using heavy bombs to collapse the supports, resulting in some weapons being buried alive underground. This highlights how, in modern warfare, underground fortresses rapidly lose cost-effectiveness when faced with bunker-busting munitions and precision-guided strikes. From a broader strategic perspective, the vulnerability of Iran's underground missile cities also stems from an imbalance in intelligence and psychological warfare. Over the years, the U.S. and Israel have built detailed maps of Iran's military layout through network infiltration, satellite imaging, and intelligence sharing with allies. It's rumored that Tehran's traffic cameras have been hacked by Israeli cyber agents, and there are even rumors that tracking chips have been implanted in the teeth of high-ranking Iranian officials. Although these sound like science fiction, they reflect the deep penetration of intelligence warfare. While there are doubts about whether it's worth using expensive ammunition to bomb cheap concrete, real-world experience has shown that this type of attrition warfare is more disadvantageous to Iran, as its economy and supply lines are far less stable than those of the U.S. and Israel. Military experts suggest that if the conflict drags on, Iran's underground network could completely fail, exposing the structural flaws in its defense system. Iran's underground missile cities, once seen as a strategic ace, now face the prospect of total collapse. This could mark a turning point in the military dynamics of the Middle East. These missile cities were initially the core of Iran's asymmetric warfare strategy, relying on low-cost weapons to counter high-tech opponents. However, in actual conflict, they failed to achieve the intended purpose, and instead accelerated the deterioration of Iran's military power. The significance of this event goes far beyond the Middle East. It reveals a common issue: the vulnerability of traditional defense facilities in the face of modern warfare. For other nations around the world, this event serves as a warning. While underground protection can resist traditional bombings, it cannot withstand full-spectrum intelligence and precision strikes in the digital and space age. Mirroring Iran's defense dilemma, a mysterious underground project in the suburbs of Beijing has recently become the focus of international intelligence gathering. According to multiple reports, this facility, known as Beijing Military City, is located about 30 kilometers southwest of the capital. Satellite images reveal deep pits and large-scale construction signs, indicating its vast expanse. The facility is buried deep within the mountains, relying on natural rock layers and artificial reinforcements to form a multi-layered underground network. It's equipped with command halls, communication systems, and survival support modules. As the core nerve center of the Chinese military, it is designed to maintain the continuity of the command chain during conventional or nuclear warfare. The facility's entrances are well hidden, and anti-aircraft missiles and electronic jamming equipment are deployed around it to defend against aerial reconnaissance and strikes. However, despite the opacity of Chinese military information, external experts have been able to sketch the layout of the facility through commercial satellite imagery from companies like Planet Labs. In January 2025, the Financial Times revealed that this new command center is massive in scale. Located near Xishi Village in Fangshan District, Beijing, the facility spans around 1,500 acres, which is 10 times the size of the Pentagon. Satellite images show over 100 cranes at the site, digging deep tunnels and underground passages. Experts assess that these will house large, reinforced shelters designed to protect military leaders in the event of a nuclear war. U.S. intelligence officials have stated that the project began accelerating in 2024 and may replace the outdated Xishan facility, becoming the largest military command center in the world. A former U.S. intelligence official pointed out that the underground structure and scale of the center indicate that its purpose is to withstand nuclear strikes, replacing Cold War-era headquarters. This colossal project is interpreted as part of General Secretary Xi Jinping's preparations for a possible Taiwan operation. However, similar to Iran's missile cities, Beijing's underground facility also faces the risk of intelligence leaks. Despite the CCP's strict secrecy over military projects, the proliferation of commercial satellites has made it difficult to maintain secrecy. As former National Geospatial Intelligence Agency analyst Renny Babiars pointed out, the underground excavation and tunnel networks visible in images suggest nuclear defense intentions, but also expose their coordinates. In April 2025, Business Insider published satellite photos of Beijing's underground bunker project, showing that the construction site stretches nearly 2.5 miles, with its scale being shocking. The rapid construction of such facilities suggests that Beijing is accelerating its preparations for war, attempting to preserve strategic weapons and command systems through underground protection. It is said that Beijing's underground bunkers are facilities prepared for CCP leader Xi Jinping in case of an attack on Taiwan or even nuclear war. It's meant for hiding or escaping. This situation reveals a deeper contradiction. Beijing's strategic logic still relies on Cold-era thinking, trying to use concrete and steel to resist the full-spectrum attacks of informationalized warfare. In the era of digital and space-based technologies, satellite reconnaissance, drone patrols, and cyber infiltration make it difficult for even the strongest bunkers to remain hidden. To the outside world, Beijing's underground projects signal war preparations, but it also exposes its strategy. Enemies need not expend effort searching. By adding these facilities to their strike databases, they can deliver a precise strike at a crucial moment. The notion of hiding and escaping are nearly meaningless under full-spectrum surveillance. For over a decade, Xi Jinping has continuously purged high-ranking officials in the CCP military. His aim is to consolidate his personal power and drive large-scale military modernization, with loyalty becoming a constant threat hanging over his head. If a conflict breaks out in the Taiwan Strait, the immediate risks of an initial amphibious assault could quickly shake morale. There are reports suggesting that among the CCP military, there are signs of lower-ranking officers waiting for the opportunity to rebel once the Taiwan Strait conflict erupts. High-ranking officials, whether out of conscience or self-preservation, may also secretly keep confidential information and, if the chance arises, take dramatic actions. With international sanctions, economic collapse, and domestic turmoil, even building a nuclear bunker 10 times the size of the Pentagon may not be enough to ensure survival. In the end, Xi Jinping could be dragged out of a hiding place by his own soldiers. History offers many precedents. Saddam Hussein's underground palaces failed to save his life, as he was eventually pulled out from his hiding hole. Muammar Gaddafi collapsed as NATO airstrikes and pressure from opposing forces caused defections. Even Khamenei and his inner circle were killed in regional conflicts. Bunkers cannot prevent such internal collapse. Instead, they may become symbols of power being overthrown. The so-called Doomsday bunker could transform into a dictator's grave.